Reese and welcome to the kitchen. We're in my kitchen in Dallas today and I'm going to show you how to make a marinara sauce. I've been told that I make, for a non-Italian girl, a damn good marinara. I usually make my marinara in large batches all at once and put it in freezer bags and freeze it. And then whenever I need a sauce for pizza or a spaghetti sauce, I pull it out and I add it to my pizza, or I add meat or meatballs to it, or I use it just as a marinara. I also sometimes use it as a tomato basil soup. I'll pull it out and add some heavy whipped cream to it for a tomato basil soup. So let me show you how to do this. It's really good and there are quite a few steps, but it's pretty easy. The ingredients that you'll need diced tomatoes. You won't need this big of a can, but I buy them this big and then freeze what I don't need. You'll need Italian diced tomatoes. You'll need crushed tomatoes. You'll need olive oil. You'll need a red or a white wine, whichever you have that's open and that's going to go bad. You'll need salt, pepper. You'll need some butter. That's my secret ingredient. You'll need some fresh basil. You'll need garlic. I'm using the cloves, but if you would like to, you can use the already diced up garlic. You'll need a large onion, and you'll need tomato paste. And if you have not yet discovered the tomato paste in a tube, you can find it at your grocery store, and you can just squirt out what you need and then stick it in the refrigerator. It's very handy. I find it much more handy than the little cans. But if you haven't discovered that yet, get some. So these are the ingredients that you'll need, and we'll get started. The equipment you'll need a large heavy pot. You'll need a measuring cup, a spoon, measuring spoons, a grater with a small grate on it, a chopping board, and a knife to cut your basil, and a knife to cut your onion in half. So I've got two. And that is what you'll need. To prepare to start the sauce, I am grating my onion. You just cut your onion in half and peel off the outer part and just grate it into a bowl. Grating the onion instead of chopping it allows you not to have to puree or put it in a blender, so you don't have any large onion chunks. You have a smooth sauce. So you're going to want to grate the onion. Also, you're going to want to chop about 10 leaves of basil. So I put them all together and I roll them. You can see, roll them. And then you're just going to rough chop them. And rolling them just makes it easy. You don't have to individually cut them. So I just cross it again, and there's your basil all cut up. And also, you're going to want to grate your garlic. So once I finish my onion, I will then grate my garlic. Okay, the first step in starting this marinara, we've got our heavy skillet here. I'm going to turn on a medium heat, and I'm going to add half a cup of extra virgin olive oil to my pan, and I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter, and I'm going to let that melt. My butter is now melted. and my oil is hot. So I'm going to take my grated onion with the juice, and I'm going to put it in here. Stir it, and you want to cook that for a couple of minutes till it's nice and cooked and soft. You don't want it brown. So just let it cook for probably 5 minutes and let it get soft, and then we will add our grated garlic and let that cook for a little bit. But don't add your garlic now, because the garlic will brown, and that's not the flavor. We don't want the burned garlic flavor. So just stir that, let it sit, and let it cook for about 5 minutes. My onion has been cooking and is nice and soft. You can see it. No browning. So now I'm going to add 4 to 6 garlic cloves, depending on how garlicky you like it, to my half an onion. This is, I'm using 6. I'm not afraid of garlic, so I'm just going to add that, stir it in, and watch this. You don't want your garlic to brown, so let it cook for another 2 or 3 minutes, stirring occasionally, and you don't want it to brown. So just stir and watch it. My onion and garlic have been cooking for a couple of minutes, and now your house smells fabulous. And we're going to add 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. I actually do not measure it out. Oops, I just pour it all over the floor. I just do 2 big squirts. You can measure it out if you want. I'll show you what mine looks like. You see the 2 big squirts. So now we're going to cook this, stir it, let the tomato paste cook out a little bit and get not so clumpy. Let the heat get through it. Just stir it all together. You don't want to let it cook too long, because it may start to burn on the bottom, and we don't want that. But you just want it to cook out. It becomes nice and smooth. You'll see it's now tomato sauce looking. So once that's cooked out a little bit, you're going to add half a cup of whichever one you prefer. You can use red or white. It's half a cup. I'm using red because the red that I had has been open for a lot longer than the white. So I'm just going to pour that in there. Mix it all together. And I'm going to let that cook out for about 8 minutes. So just stir it, let it cook out for about 8 minutes. The wine will reduce, and continue to stir so you don't get any browning, and just continually stir and watch it. Okay, my wine has now reduced, and you'll have a much thicker sauce. So now I'm going to add 28 ounces with the juice of diced tomatoes, 14 ounces of crushed tomatoes, and 14 ounces of Italian-style diced tomatoes. to stir this all together. And again, I'm over medium heat. And I'm going to add a little palmful of salt. And pepper. You can put as much as you want. At this point, we're just putting it in. We're not tasting it. In a little while, we'll taste it and see if it needs more salt and pepper. And then I've got my 10 basil leaves chopped up. So we're going to add those in. And now we are going to leave this to cook over medium heat for 30 minutes. Stirring occasionally. And we will come back and taste test it. Jackson says hi. And see how we are on our thickness and consistency. My sauce has now been bubbling away, not boiling, for about 30 minutes. You'll see it's quite a bit thicker. And now we're going to turn the heat down to a low simmer. Your tomatoes should be getting softer by now. You can kind of mash them and see. So now we're going to just take a little taste. And I think it needs more salt, quite a bit more, so I'm going to add a large palmful. I'm going to add a lot more pepper. I'm going to stir that all together. And as I said, turn your heat down to a low simmer. And we're going to cook it for 30 more minutes, allowing these tomatoes to really soften up. And we'll kind of mush them up a little bit when they get a little softer. So be sure and take your wooden spoon if you use a wooden spoon. I have a very bad habit of leaving mine in there and letting it cook. So watch it while it cools down to the simmer and make sure that it doesn't stick to the bottom. And let's give it 30 more minutes and then we'll taste it again and see if it needs any more salt or pepper. My sauce has now been cooking another 30 minutes and it's done, finished, completed. So I'm going to taste it to make sure that it's got enough salt and pepper. It tastes good to me. You can see the consistency of it. If it's too thick for you, you can add a half a cup of water with wine. Just do equal parts and then let it cook out a little bit, probably 15 minutes or so. And then also, mine is pretty chunky, so you can either mash it with your spoon or you can take a potato masher and mash it if you don't want it that chunky. I like the chunky parts of it, but maybe you don't want a big bite of tomato, so you can always do that. And like I said, you can always add meat to this and have a spaghetti sauce or meatballs. You can add some cream to it and have a good tomato basil soup. I use it also as my sauce for my pizza. So there's lots of things you can do with it. besides it just using it as a marinara. It tastes nice and fresh. So if you are serving it today or tonight, let it sit and cool. I'd let it sit for a good hour or two just to let the flavors all come together. But otherwise, let it cool down and fill a large Ziploc container, and you can just fill it up and then let all the air out and then lay it flat, and it will be a flat that you can just slide into your freezer, and it will freeze and you can stack several of them on top of each other. So I hope you enjoy it. I know I always do. Thanks.